Hello, happy Friday, everyone. So glad you can be here. It seems like since I posted the video on Scotland that things are moving. Things are changing day to day, and the leader of the Labour Party in Scotland, Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition, has taken over the policy making with regards to this because it's now a UK-wide issue. So if you're just joining, thank you so much. If you've watched some of the videos previously, great to have you. Kate, I'm here on the unceded coastal Salish lands that we call Vancouver, British Columbia. Somebody asked me why I use that, why I use a land acknowledgement, and that's what that's called. And they're not from Canada. And so Canada, of course, was not settled by white people, and I'm a white settler by way of Scotland, Ireland, and Croatia. And I recognize that, there is a very significant colonial evil that occurred here. And I, as a white settler, am the beneficiary of that genocide. So I try to be mindful of that and to acknowledge that and to respect that and to look with hope to the future with regards to finding reconciliation with the Indigenous people here on the unceded Coast Salish lands. So that's the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and the Squamish nations, just kind of within half an hour of here. And then further east, you have other nations like the Stolo and so on, or out even beyond that to the Kanaha and so on. So that's why I try to start and introduce every video. I think I've done that pretty consistently now for the last 3 years since I moved to Vancouver, and that's that. So like I said, things have been moving fast in Scotland, super fast in Scotland, and it's like I would wake up and there's new developments, and I got a lot of comments. I one of the cool things about YouTube is you can see where your views are coming from. So when there's external sources, you can see. And normally speaking, about 20% of my views come from Instagram. Like 10% of my views will come from Twitter, depending if I post in Reddit or not. It can be upwards of 50 to 60% of the views will come from Reddit. From a native Montrealer, Scotland is the Quebec of the UK. Oui, parce que Québec c'est un pays. Like, c'est un pays. That's the end of the story. I fully support that, and having been to Montreal a few times now, while my French is terrible, I'm massively respectful of the fact that the French Canadian are their own nation, absolutely. Without getting into the two solitudes and so on and so forth. But they were recognized in Canada by Stephen Harper, no less. I want to say 2010 or so, 2012, I could be wrong. Quebec was recognized as a distinct society, distinct nation within Canada. I can't quite remember the legislative language that was used. And in fact, it cost Stephen Harper a cabinet minister who resigned, Michael Chong, who's an MP out of the Toronto area. I think that takes a lot of courage to stick to your convictions like that, the courage of your convictions. And we don't see that a lot in politics. And he's someone I actually will listen to and follow even today. He's got a lot of really interesting things to say. So Quebec is its own country for sure. I think one of the things about Scotland, though, that separates them from Quebec is Scotland was a sovereign nation, an independent and sovereign nation in the early 18th century, 1703, 1707. I can't quite remember the exact date, but they sat down and voted to voted themselves out of existence, essentially, and to be ruled by Westminster. And something I've heard over the years is Scotland is bought and sold for London gold. And I've seen this theme in more than a couple of editorials I've read this week coming out of Scotland, is that you've got Scotland and the people in Scotland, and this is beyond being a trans person. You've got the folks in Scotland, and then you have Scots living in London, or living and benefiting in England, and it's different. And there's a great scene in Braveheart, actually, where Robert the Bruce's father, it's the scene where they realize they're betraying William Wallace, and whether this is historically accurate or not, but essentially the two opposing armies would meet, they would negotiate, parley, because they're Normans. Let's not forget this. Like, they're Normans, and like, if you want to have some fun, just Google the percentage of private property owned throughout the United Kingdom by Norman descendants today. Just go Google it. You'll be stunned. 1,000 years later, stunned. It's really shocking. So they received titles and property in England, and betrayed William Wallace, who was then, of course, hanged, drawn, and quartered, and parts of himself were sent to four corners of the kingdom. And I want to say 12 years later was Bannockburn. I might be wrong, but yeah, it's at the end of the movie. Robert the Bruce rallies the troops, and away they go. And so, I think this is 2 points of difference between Quebec and Scotland. Is one, centuries of warfare with the English, and economic negotiation with the English, or the Normans. And, after 400, 500 years of that, they voted themselves out of existence. Versus in Quebec, you had the French War, the Battle at the Plains of Abraham, 1759. Incidentally, the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, right here, the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, the regiment that my great grandfather was in, was there, and the famous painting of the Thin Red Line comes from that. And then, of course, General Wolfe, General Montcalm, and everything, and it went on. Anyways, enough of Canadian history. I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that have been in the comments through the last 10 days or so. And, I made a post on Instagram about how I can handle being called a bloke, or being called a meddling man, or a trans-identified male. That's to be expected from TERFs. Like I said, I think the video or the channel was posted in a Discord group, in that a percentage of views came from Discord. It's the only thing I can think of. Just in terms of seeing this, and these comments were pretty typical TERF stuff, without question. And it's not that I have a thick skin. It's not fun or pleasant to see by any stretch. But the thing that did get under my skin, that did bother me, was when I was told I wasn't Scottish and that I should stop talking, and I had no right to comment on what was going on in Scotland. And that was a bit of a dagger. And I can say with confidence that it was spoken by the same people saying those same things, and so as such, I shouldn't take it seriously, and I do try to brush it off. But this is from Glasgow right here. Glasgow Celtic, that's the team. That's my team that I cheer for, and I've got it in my heart and in my soul, like Rod Stewart sings. And, in fact, I even was chatting, just bumped into someone this afternoon. I went to the eye doctor and I was chatting with someone from Glasgow who's wearing a Celtic top. And, we were just chatting about the team and being from Glasgow. We didn't talk about trans stuff or anything. But there's a connection there. There's a cultural connection, being an Irish Catholic in Scotland, but then also, being Scots abroad, part of that diaspora. And that's my people. And it's something I hold very dear and close to my heart. And, I think the last couple of weeks, just seeing the media out of the UK, the hysteria really out of the UK has really brought that to bear. Is that, this is the core of my identity in all aspects of it. I'm not sure where to begin here. Like, we could start with comments. We could just start going through the headlines. What are people thinking out there in YouTube land? We've got 9 people on the chat right now. What's everyone else thinking out there? Or, did you get a chance to watch the video and see Jade's story and the hurdles she's needed to jump through? And like, I cut her part down to, I think, about 10 or 12 minutes. But we had a good 45-minute chat there about everything she needed to do, all the hoops that needed to be jumped through. And essentially, my takeaway from it is that they're consistently moving the goalposts, not just on her, but on the entire trans community. And it's a challenge. I couldn't find tenants, so I'm drinking PBR tonight. Maybe I should look for some scotch or something next time. I don't know. What's everyone's favorite scotch out there? I like Talisker. Talisker's a nice one. Or Dalwhinnie. I find Dalwhinnie, if I'm out, like at a restaurant or a bar or something, Dalwhinnie's a super easy kind of like guaranteed to be there $15, $20. And what's great about drinking scotch when you're out is you drink it slow, so it doesn't sneak up on you. At least that's how I drink it. Maybe others drink it differently. Okay, well, I think what I'm gonna do is gonna turn on the window capture here, which should show us. I hope it's showing us. Maybe it's not. Trying to, so I can see where it is. It's got Microsoft. Not sure what to make of this tonight. This worked the last time. Is everyone just seeing me now? Which isn't the intent here. Let me just confirm on YouTube myself. So I can see how it looks going live. Okay, I can see myself looking, but I don't see there should be something right here. I don't know why it's not going through. There we go. Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to have to do that every time for the each tab, so we'll just have to keep that in mind. But you know, no text box. Now there's a text box though, so you should be able to see it. Just let me know. So I'm just gonna scroll in here a little bit, and we can see Nicola Sturgeon, who is the First Minister there in Scotland. And yeah, okay, so it works tab to tab. I'm just going to see if I can open this up. Here we go. I'm going to go to YouTube as well. So thanks Getty. So I had an interesting comment actually on one of the shorts, and what do you all think of the shorts that I'm putting out right now? Like, I'm really just trying to maximize opportunity for people to see the channel, really, and to engage, and that's it. But just kind of curious what people's thoughts are of the shorts. Hey Cheryl, from the Midwest. You're in Indiana, is that correct? Am I remembering that correctly, Cheryl? Yeah, here's the oh goodness. It it jumps around a lot. So just looking for the comments that I did. Somebody left an interesting comment on one of the shorts. That wasn't it. Maybe they deleted it. Oops, I don't want to. So interesting, the dislike button there. So the dislike button doesn't go through on the other side. So as a viewer, you don't see the dislikes, but I do as the creator, actually. And what was interesting about that Scotland video is, on average, my channel, 100 videos in, you know, so over 4 years, averages like 97% like and 3% dislike. So whatever. That one was, last time I looked, 78% dislike. So they were brigading it, whatever they were doing. It was interesting to see that in real time. Anyway, so here's a comment from Richard. I'm assuming Richard's in Scotland, I'm not sure. Or perhaps England. But Richard asked, you know, what's your view on Isla Bryson's situation out of interest? And I saw it, and my initial reaction was like, I didn't know who this was. And while I'm familiar with Scotland, I'm, you know, aware of things that are going on. It's on a very broad level. I can't tell you, like, you know, all politics is local. I can't tell you, like, the council's taking the garbage out or not, or what have you. The comment, I saw it and I was just like, there's something behind this. And I Googled it pretty quickly, and you can see here that what happened in the UK was that, here's the CBS story. So this trans woman in the UK was convicted just this week of rape of 2 women in Scotland. And the rape occurred before she began to transition. She transitioned after her arrest, after she was charged, and was convicted this week. And I hope that the victims, I want to really try to center the victims of this terrible crime, and I hope they're able to find healing and peace through the process. And I'm really, there are no words to describe the violence that they encountered here. But Isla was, so the way I understand it, and like, women do not belong in men's prisons, period. And the way I understood it is that Isla was placed in segregation for her safety, but most importantly, that there be no more victims. So that's critical. I don't know anything about prison administration, but like a core value, I think, of any rational, decent person is that if somebody has committed a crime and they can go to prison, there is that opportunity for rehabilitation or what have you, or they do their time. And I'm not at all suggesting that this is a light sentence should be handed out or anything. But you also want to ensure safety, right? Like the basic premise of the relationship with the state is that the state is responsible for the security of the citizens, and you don't abdicate your citizenship because you've committed a crime. And I like to think we've moved past the Victorian concept of punitive imprisonment. And like if you've ever read about that, it's pretty horrific what happened there. So, if anyone has any doubts, like, I don't believe in the death penalty ever by any stretch. And so, this individual was assessed, and I guess that's the process that's going to occur or has occurred, is that there are individual risk assessments done. And at the end of the day, and this occurred over kind of a 3-4 day period after conviction here this week, is that Isla is in a men's prison, but remains in segregation and will be safe from any potential harm. So what I noticed, though, was that people were pretty quick to comment one way or the other, or to use it as a way to further their agenda. And there are, I think I saw a number, there are 15 trans people total in Scottish prisons. So I'm not sure how big an issue that is. And if we look at the pop culture awareness of trans women in prison, Orange is the New Black there. And I only watched the first 3 seasons, so I don't know how it ended. But Laverne Cox committed financial crime. She was, prior to transition, was a firefighter and had taken the credit cards, spoiler alert, taken the credit cards of people, at the fire scene and so on, and used it. And anyways, was serving a light sentence. So this was the knock against her from some other inmates. Yeah, so that was kind of interesting. I don't know if that was on anyone's radar this week to see that. You can go and read up on it if you want. It could change tomorrow. Like I'm really not sure what to say to that. It seems to be like there's a lot of stuff going on. The Guardian, of course, is an institution of the English middle class, and has consistently published that, in the Telegraph consistently published incendiary stuff really about it. Scottish Trans, I know they did an interesting thread on the situation, and I would encourage people to go check that out on Twitter and check out their Twitter feed. But it's exhausting, absolutely exhausting to be trans in today's world. And, speaking of Orange is the New Black, like, do you remember Laverne Cox being on the cover of Time magazine? I want to say 2013, 2012. And I want to say this was even before Caitlyn Jenner came out. So what's the date on this? I got to see. I went to the eye doctor today. I got multifocal contact lenses. This is amazing. I can see while I'm looking. I love it. Do we have a date on here? I can't quite see. Anyways, it was 7 years ago is what the image says. So whatever, 2015. Was not an exciting time to be at the forefront of that, thinking it was going to just get better and better. Acceptance, we're moving past just tolerance, right? I've got no time for tolerance. And we saw that, and I think I want to say a year or two later, Caitlyn Jenner, of course, came out, and whether we agree with Caitlyn's politics or not, I'm not sure that she's April 2015. Okay. I'm not sure she's been a voice for the broader trans community, especially in America. And, speaking out against gay marriage in California, for example, is, really disappointing. And I think if there's anything I've learned over the last 5 years since I've come out and transitioned is, once you get somewhere, you got to reach back and help. And bring others, open the door for others, and just help. So since then, though, like I got to say, it feels like we've regressed, and we can see in Missouri, we had someone from KC MO on here last time, and I'd be really curious. I forget who it was. If they're on tonight, if they want to comment just on what it's like in Missouri and being trans. So, we had 3 weeks ago, there was a trans woman on death row. I believe she murdered 2 people and was executed. I think first execution of a trans person in the US, first execution of 2023 as well. And then just 2 days ago, the Missouri legislature tried to pull a fast one, from what I can understand. They tried to sneak this in with very little notice, and tried to ram in 8 different laws. And so, for example, they were hearing bills on trans student athletes, and y'all, like, I don't know what to say about the trans women in sports, and I started doing a video actually this week on it. So, if I thought British turfs were bad, I wonder what's going to happen when I publish that one. But like, I get my ass handed to me on the soccer field every single week. Like, I cannot keep up at all. And, I'm much older than my teammates and my opponents for the most part. And I think, if I was 25 and transitioning, there would be a point when I would not have been comfortable going on the field personally. And in fact, I was invited when I lived in Calgary a couple of years ago. I was invited, I want to say in the first 6 months of, transition, to join a women's softball team. And I did not want to expose myself to that. In that I knew if I hit the ball too hard, like let's say I got a triple, or God forbid, I, scared to get a home run, right? Like if I hit it out of the field, not that I would even probably be able to hit the ball, but I just didn't want to risk it at the time. And now I'm comfortable. My muscles have shrunk, and I realize I'm just a lot slower and weaker than a lot of other women. So anyways, trans student athletes. And we saw in, I think, was it Utah last year? The governor was like, do we even have any trans students? Like, a lot of this is our solutions in search of a problem. That's what I'm really realizing. We consistently read about the cost of living being an issue throughout the world at this point. It just feels like people are being distracted by a lot of things that maybe they need to have their attention elsewhere. Gender affirming treatment. So for children, And I think that this has been widely disproven now at this point, that children do not get surgery in America or Canada. And, that's a common trope. The common argument is that, well, we want to ensure kids aren't making irreversible, life-changing decisions. Okay, agreed. Like, an 11-year-old, let's give them time. But you want them to go through male puberty or a female puberty, and then when they're 22, make that decision. But wait, it gets better, because they actually they're starting to talk about adult treatment and raising that age to 26. And, I don't know about those on the call who, on the video here, who went through a testosterone-based puberty. But at 26, like I was on the other side. Absolutely. Drag shows, some of the legislation I'm seeing coming out of the States is involving drag as well. And is it Tennessee? Essentially, Pride's going to be banned. And Oklahoma. So it's really, really exhausting. That's the only word I have to describe what's going on. It just seems like we're being used as a distraction, and it makes me think like that. There's it's easy to say, well, look at that blue-haired freak over there, or that non-binary, Yahoo using neo pronouns. Like, we need to protect ourselves from the other, right? The different, or it doesn't make sense. And I'm not non-binary. Like, it's not my lived experience, and I can talk about it somewhat, but really I try and point as best I can to a non-binary individual and say, well, let's listen to them. They are who they say they are. And I can only imagine that that's much more difficult for, someone who's straight-laced, or, refuses to look outside the patriarchal, crystal fascist worldview that they've been raised in. And so they're using us. But, it brings me to mind, like, you seen Dylan Mulvaney? There we go. Yeah, Dylan Mulvaney. I don't know where she is exactly in the States, but she is in the States. So she just had facial feminization surgery this week or last month, just revealed it today. And, was able to afford it. Great. Like, she's very open that she's one of the most privileged trans women in America. Like, there she is hanging out with Joe Biden a few months ago. She's not everyone's cup of tea, though. And I notice whenever I post or reshare something that she's posted, I get messages, not from cis people, but from other trans people. And she seems to really set trans folks off. And I will admit that her energy level is at a scale I am unable to even contemplate. I could not turn it up to that level any day of the week at all, or even with chemical assistance. I don't think I could do that. It's impressive. Hey Ravish, welcome. Where are you in from, Ravish? Love to hear that. The other thing I noticed on Instagram, when I look at another trans person on Instagram, one of the first things I look at is who are the mutuals, whether that be Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Who do I know following this person, and vice versa. And for the most part, if there's a trans person with more than a couple thousand followers, like there'll be an overlap of a couple hundred. Welcome from India. What time is it in India right now? I got to think it's probably 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But in this case, Dylan's got 10 million or a million on Instagram and 10 million on TikTok. And I think there's like only 70 mutual overlap there on Instagram and 8 a.m. Okay, great. Which was telling to me in that of that 70, a lot of them were cis accounts I follow, not trans accounts. While there were some there were of that number, a percentage of trans folks following it. It was not significant. And the reason I'm bringing up Dylan is, she presents an easy face, really. She's paid for it. A binary experience. I'm from Canada, Ravish. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that respectability politics, I believe, regardless of where you're from, Canada, US, Australia, UK, I'm just going to talk about the English speaking world. I can't, ich kann kein Deutsch, or, what have you. It seems like there seems to be this growing divide where we've got some people who do not want to, don't want to be that kind of outsider. They don't want to use those pronouns perhaps that would upset the white cis het world that we do have to live in. We do have to navigate, of course. And then you've got others where they're living authentically, whether that be as their non-binary selves or they're blue-haired. Ravish, 2 questions there. You are not entitled to information like that, really, like to ask it like that. And I think it's important as a trans person, let's not center surgery necessarily as the experience. And, back to that point about Dylan or what have you, is I think Dylan kind of bridges that gap. I guess, in terms of being a pretty face, but also is being very authentic in a way that is upsetting folks all over the place. Like, she was giving out tampons and stuff. And, okay, Ravish, that's really, there are resources in India. I don't know, Dr. Kamal, I want to say, I'm not sure where they are, but there are resources in India. I don't know them. I'm sorry. And yeah, so Dylan is I think activating folks in a way that I notice it. And I want to live a quiet life. I want to just, go to the grocery store. I went to the eye doctor. I went to the mall. I worked, I met with a client yesterday. Like, I just want to live my life, go with my kids somewhere. Go to the washroom in peace. I get all that. And some people seem really concerned and offended that these people aren't being respectable enough, or they're being too much of too much. And I think just in terms of approaching bodily autonomy, as trans people, like, who are we to say? Who are we to demand somebody accommodate our reservations? And representation matters, and visibility saves lives. And I look at Dylan, and I think, what would 18-year-old me if I was 18 today, like, what would I have done with that? And like, in the 90s, like, we had Jerry Springer, we had like the Phil Donahue show. Remember that one? He showed up in a dress or a skirt. Um, so yeah, it something to consider is like, assimilation is not liberation. That's really what it comes down to. Is and we see this with even saw it with the LGB Alliance in the UK. One of the spokespeople, because some folks are saying, well, we can't just stop with trans people. We have to eradicate gay marriage and all this stuff as well. And I remember seeing some exchanges with somebody from the LGB Alliance, and that's the LGB without the T in the UK, and you'll sometimes see people use that. And she was like, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, essentially. But if you look on Reddit, you can look up "leopards ate my face." They're supposed to eat other people's faces. They're not supposed to eat my face. And I guess that's really something I feel strongly about, is that, yeah, okay, Dylan or whomever, it's not how I live. It's not how I interact with the world. Like, day 382 of being a girl. I celebrate it, and good for her. And I support it, and I hope others do as well. And I think she's doing a lot, and she's doing it in a way that's very positive and encouraging. And we can even see that with Alok, right? What they're doing, they have some. Am I spelling their name correctly? If you ever heard them on podcasts or whatever, I just have to pause sometimes and go, wow, like, rewind it to listen, because it's got such depth a lot of times, and the way they respond to hate is also I do not have the patience or the compassion to do that. And you'll see me sometimes in the comments of different social media platforms, like, I will get pugnacious. Thank you, Ravish. Thank you. And even Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye, and Jonathan's using any pronouns. It looks like they, he, and she. So I've met a few people. Luxander, if you're not following Luxander, let me encourage you to follow Luxander. But it they or it, and it was interesting on their live stream. I don't know what that means, Rafik. What that means by stones, those natural stones. But it was interesting listening to some non-binary people talk about pronouns, and I've seen more than a few of them now use its pronouns. So that's something. So yeah. And I think Luxander is at a point now where people are calling them out. So I'm not sure what else to say about Scotland or Missouri or what have you. If anyone in the comments has anything to say, I can see them there. But in the last live stream, we didn't get a chance to go through all the comments. And, so like, yeah, I posted a video here about my experience with having a breast cancer scare. Going through an ultrasound, inconclusive, going through a mammogram, inconclusive, getting a biopsy, going back and doing the ultrasound again, mammogram again, getting the results of the biopsy. And I do have a tumor in my breast, and I now have a piece of titanium that I have to get annual mammograms and measure the growth of the tumor against the piece of titanium. And that's me now. And one of the arguments that TERFs will make is that the incidence of breast cancer incidence of breast cancer in trans women is higher, and because I think I'm no statistician, but you start introducing estrogen into a system, it's probably going to happen. And I had a friend with a pituitary cancer scare for the same reason. And so this one's got 542 views in the last 2 weeks. What was interesting about that Scotland one that I did, I did not expect that to generate any interest, any views or comments. That was just me processing some stuff and getting some stuff off my chest. But this one had some comments. I'm just trying to see how to do this. I'm not sure how to kick people off the stream, if I'm able to moderate. And Rafik, if I could kick you off, I would. So, yeah, okay. I can get rid of you, Rafik. So, yeah, we're gonna... Goodbye. So, yeah. There we go. All the messages should be hidden now. Yep, message is all deleted. I hope that shows up on the other side too, but that's what I see on my end. So what's the delay, I wonder? I think it's a 7-second delay between you typing and me seeing it. I'm not 100% sure. But the comments... yeah, how do I get to the comments again? Because now I've got all these other videos, and where are the comments? Got the reports, show less, go here. This is no fun. Yes, I did, Ravish. Maybe I have to play the video. Lots of ads on YouTube now. My channel is not monetized. I get nothing from these ads. I'm finding this hobby is not cheap. Like, I enjoy it. I really do. Like, I'd have a camera anyways. Okay, so there's me talking. Now, where did the comments go? Show less gets us back up here. Maybe I need to... There we go. There's the comments. Okay. Yeah, so Jade has, not only has Jade been on the channel, Jade comments on a lot of my videos, and I'm very appreciative. Jade's taken a couple bullets for me. And if you're watching this after the fact, Jade, thank you so much for some of the comments you've made. I really do appreciate it. But like, look, there wasn't a lot of daylight between me and Jade here, just in terms of like when I was first told, like I was told I would need to get a mammogram at some point, and So she said at first she was annoyed at the recommendation of her HRT doctor to get a mammogram. And it was, Jade's a little bit older than me, not by much, because it was not aligned with what Cancer Canada recommends for trans femme. But she watched the video and she's like, okay. So she shares a little bit about having a cyst and wishes me well. Brandy also, I've never met Brandy in real life, but we've exchanged messages and I appreciate that. Brandy, wishes me well. Blair, a friend, I had drinks with him just last week, and thanks for being a friend, Blair. And River Getson, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. Alan says thanks. Pustart, I'm not sure how to say that. Hey Kaz, thanks for the comment. And Kaz, you've made more than a few comments over the years too on videos. I appreciate it. So cis women, trans men, trans women, and cis men can all develop breast cancer. Yeah, cis men can. I'm in insurance. Like I deal with cancer claims. I see them, and I had a colleague get breast cancer, although he called it chest cancer. So it can happen. And yeah, there are greater and lesser risk, so there's genetics, physiology, environment, so on and so forth. And in Canada, I think cancer is the leading cause of death. Could be wrong. It might be heart disease, but it's like 1 or 2 or 1A, 1B kind of thing. Tori, yep. Thanks for being on the call, on the video, and glad it went well. Brandy, thanks, Brandy. Brandy's an old friend from Calgary, former colleague as well. Bobby's got some nice supportive comments, and Trace is in there too. But the first few comments were actually from people who celebrated me getting a tumor and had things that were not pleasant at all. And like I said in the video, like I had just found I just found that, like I was cleaning up and I found the appointment reminder. I was like, okay, like I should share this with people so they know. Because when I went to look, I didn't see a lot of information about trans and transgender women and breast cancer, or mammograms or ultrasounds. So it took me a year. It took me a year to share that. And when you consider all the other things I've shared over the last 5 years on different social media sites, I think that's demonstrates just how much that affected me. So yeah, those are the comments there in that one. Jetty's in there. Started in 2017, age 59. Yeah, I couldn't imagine it 10 years ago either. And yeah, you're ready. Yeah, you are the age you need to. Yeah. This was one. I think I read these comments for Trans Life is Hard. Does it get any better? Pretty sure I did. In the last one. The one I didn't do is the Scotland one, and I had to delete a lot of comments here. In my notes in my description of the video, I put a poem by Robbie Burns. So we just celebrated Burns Night here on the 25th, last 3 days ago. And actually for tonight, I wanted a prop. I wanted to get Iron Brew. Iron Brew gets you through. Iron Brew is, it's the national drink of Scotland. I don't know, if you've never seen it, it's It's got a very unique flavor, and it's really it's one of my favorite. I've loved it. Like my dad would bring it back from Scotland, and anyways, there's a Scottish shop, Irish Scottish shop here in Vancouver, and they were sold out, totally sold out of everything of Iron Brew. But it's kind of like Fanta meets cream soda, maybe that's a way to describe it. But National Drink of Scotland, it's like the only place in the world where cola is not the number one drink. It's interesting about Quebec. We talked about Quebec at the start. Quebec is the only place of all the colas where Pepsi is number one in Quebec. So, anyways, Burns Night was on the 25th, and you'll see people. Maybe you saw me post about haggis, which I do not like haggis. It's no right. It's no. It's not my thing. I'll have a steak and kidney pie. I love that, but I won't eat awful stuffed into intestines with porridge and scotch and lung. That's it. You can't get haggis in the U.S. I don't know about Canada, but you can't get it in the U.S. because traditional haggis is made with lung. Because in the Highlands you gotta use everything. But Robbie Burns from Ayr, which is not in the Highlands, it's south of Glasgow. But you'll see me make this comment. In a couple of my posts about this last few weeks. It's just the first line. Scots Wahey with Wallace blood. Scots Wahey with Wallace blood. Scots when Bruce has often led. Welcome to your gory bed or to victory. So I won't read the whole thing, but I grew up with Robbie Burns. Had a giant painting of Robbie Burns in Edinburgh on the wall in my house as a kid. So te moose wee slick at counter and little beastie. Ooh, what a tremblance in thy breastie. My love is like a red, red rose, or he banks, he brays of bonny doon. I posted, typically when I post a video, so just, my process is I script it, film it, edit it over the course of kind of 24 hours, so I typically will like to film on a Friday night, edit through the Saturday, and then render it, because you have to render the video and upload it, and then YouTube does their thing and it processes it. That takes hours. So to render it, I don't have a super fast computer. That's going to take 4 or 5 hours to render the video, and then once it gets uploaded to YouTube, it's going to take them a few hours until it's good for you to see. And so typically I will hit public. I'll make the video public sometime around midnight of whatever day I've posted. 1 o'clock in the morning, midnight, whatever. And most of the subscribers of the YouTube channel are online Friday mornings, because I can see the report, when the majority of viewers are online. But I'm working, so I'm not doing it. Okay, Kaz is, go to your birthday party, have fun. So I posted this 1 o'clock in the morning here, 12:30, whatever it was, and that's morning time in the UK. And I went to bed, fell asleep, and I woke up to a lot of comments, a lot of angry comments. So Jade, of course, was a guest on it, and she's got some more comments here. Hazel's Transgender Vlogs, I went and subscribed to Hazel's channel, so thanks for commenting here. You see there's not a lot of comments now, but at first there was a lot. So Cheryl, of course, is in there. And, yeah, like I said, 620 views. I did not expect anyone to watch this. Like, this is purely for me and my need to just get it out and share. So anyways, Scotland, Edinburgh, these are the things we've discussed. Is there anyone else wanted to share or chat about? Because that's really, the top things that I wanted to get out there was just what's going on, and share that. So update as to what to expect on the channel the next little bit is on Monday. What I'm doing is I'm gonna interview somebody for the podcast, Trans at Work podcast that I have. So an entrepreneur from the other side of the country, from Newfoundland, St. John's, Newfoundland, and I think it's important to get regional representation. The first few guests on the podcast will be Canadian, for the simple reason that it's easy for me to discuss it, in that I'm familiar with, as somebody who's involved with HR and corporate workplace and so on and so forth. I'm very familiar with the legislation that's in place across the country at both provincial and federal level, as well as best practices within HR and corporate environments. So I can speak pretty handily to that. And the first few episodes that allow me to get better. Like if you go back and look at my early YouTube, it's it needed some work. And so, yeah, like I think with podcasting, it's a different rhythm in terms of editing. It's a different rhythm in terms of chatting with someone. Trans Canada Project YouTube channel. I don't know that one. I'll have to check that out. But you know what I've noticed, Getty, is over the years is there was a lot of YouTube channels that were very helpful, but are now defunct, or they move on. They get busy. We all have lives. I can remember this one trans woman from Winnipeg, and I watched her. I want to say from 2007, 2008, maybe. And over the course of about 5 years, she went through her transition, and then she met someone from Virginia. And she posted a farewell video. And when did the It Gets Better thing happen? Like where everyone was posting videos to just encourage young queer folk. It gets better. So she posted another video a couple years after she said goodbye. Just It Gets Better. I don't even remember her name now, 10, 12 years later. But, it's yeah, there's a lot of channels. Or Trans IRL. Samantha, what's her last name? She's got an Italian last name. I can't remember now. But, that looked really promising. So Katie Montgomery, though, is someone I think is very active and has a great channel. A lot of really great information there. So, yeah, podcast, back to that. I just want to, try to get 5 to 7 episodes out this year. And it takes a lot longer to edit a podcast. Like, I'd say it's 4 to 5 times more effort, just in terms of the technical stuff required, because you're editing different channels, like, audio channels, video channels, bringing them together, making sure it all lines up. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And talking to like Billy, who what was the name of her podcast? She has a horror podcast she does on horror films, and it takes. She's commented that that's a lot of work. And so, anyways, so Trans at Work. I think I'm gonna have that hopefully next weekend. I'll post that. And then that leads me into the 5th anniversary of starting HRT. And so I've got to get that done. I don't know if that was the same one, Getty, the red girl. It could be. But yeah, so 5th anniversary of HRT for me on February 15th. And I'm going to do a 5-year update on the changes my body has encountered, which truthfully, in the last year since the 4-year update, I'm going to say not a significant amount of changes has occurred, really. I mean, surgery happened, right? That was the big change. And I'll talk a little bit about that for sure. But yeah, anyways, I'm having fun. I'm feeling a lot more consistent in terms of effort-wise, energy level-wise, in terms of producing content. Still not 100% sure how much gas is in the tank in terms of the stories to tell. Just in terms of my stories, and maybe that's why I'm really interested in the podcast, is because I can get other people's stories and share those and help more people. And that's all the news that's fit to print tonight. So it's been an hour and a bit, and I'm gonna go have dinner now. And that's that. So thank you all for joining. Thank you all for coming. And here's to life.